Imagine paying 10 times your salary just to buy a house. Sounds unbelievable, right? But it's the harsh reality for millions in the UK. Rent prices have doubled, yet wages remain stuck in the past, making it almost impossible for young people to secure a home. At the same time, energy bills have soared to record-breaking levels, and public transport is overcrowded to the point where commuting feels like a daily battle. This isn't just a bad month for the UK, it's a full-blown crisis. The rising cost of living is forcing families to choose between heating their homes or buying food, while the NHS struggles to keep up with an ever-growing demand for care. Job insecurity is at an all-time high, and taxes keep going up, leaving many with little room to breathe. So, what's causing this chaos? Is it just a string of bad luck, or is there something deeply flawed about the way things are run? The truth behind the UK's decline is far more shocking than you might think. As the country faces staggering debts, poor healthcare, and rising inequality, it's no surprise that so many are questioning whether the UK is still a place where they can thrive. Stay with us as we break down the 10 shocking reasons why life in the UK is becoming impossible and what might come next. Number 1. Skyrocketing housing prices. The housing market in the UK has become increasingly unaffordable, leaving many people feeling trapped. Over the past decade, house prices have surged to levels that make owning property almost impossible for the average person. In London and other major cities, prices have nearly doubled, while wages have barely kept pace. This disparity means that even people with steady jobs are struggling to save for a deposit or even rent in decent areas. A recent study revealed that in some regions, the average house price now requires more than 10 times the average income. That's an enormous burden for many, especially considering that wages in many industries have remained stagnant for years. For younger generations, buying a house has become more of a dream than a realistic goal. Even renting is becoming increasingly costly. With rental prices also on the rise, people are often forced to live in smaller spaces or subpar conditions, all while paying a significant chunk of their monthly earnings. The situation is especially dire for those in cities like Manchester, Bristol, and Birmingham, where rental prices have been climbing sharply due to a shortage of affordable housing. The government's inability to address the housing crisis has only made the situation worse. With little action taken on affordable housing projects, many people are left feeling frustrated and disillusioned. The lack of affordable housing is contributing to a growing divide between those who own property and those who cannot even dream of owning. This housing crisis isn't just a financial issue, it's a fundamental problem that is affecting the quality of life for millions of people across the UK. Number 2. High cost of living. The cost of living in the UK has reached staggering levels, making everyday life more expensive than ever before. From grocery shopping to utility bills, every aspect of daily life is becoming harder to manage. Inflation has been steadily increasing, and this has driven the prices of basic goods through the roof. Food prices alone have risen by over 10% in recent years, leaving families to make difficult decisions about what they can and can't afford. Staple items like bread, milk, and meat have seen significant price hikes, and it's becoming harder to stretch the weekly budget. But it's not just food that's getting more expensive. Energy bills are another major concern. The cost of heating and powering homes has shot up dramatically, with gas and electricity prices soaring, putting additional financial strain on households. For many, this means having to choose between heating their home or paying for other essentials, especially during the colder months. Transport costs have also been on the rise, with fuel prices and public transportation fares increasing across the country. The already burdened commuter has to face not only overcrowded trains, but also higher costs for tickets and fuel. This makes daily travel unaffordable for many, pushing them to reconsider their living arrangements or even their jobs. The rising cost of living is forcing people to make difficult choices, and for many, it's about cutting back on basic comforts just to make ends meet. This has led to widespread financial anxiety, as people struggle to adjust to a new, more expensive reality. The truth is, the high cost of living is slowly eroding the standard of life for millions of people in the UK. Number 3. Stagnant wages. While the cost of living continues to rise at an alarming rate, wages in the UK have largely remained stagnant, creating a growing divide between income and expenses. Many workers are now facing a hard truth. Despite working long hours, their paychecks are not stretching as far as they used to. Over the past few years, wage growth has been sluggish, especially in non-specialist sectors. This means that while prices for food, transport, and housing have soared, the average person's earning potential has barely budged. In fact, recent reports show that many people are experiencing real wage stagnation, where their paychecks, adjusted for inflation, have actually decreased in value over time. This has left people with less disposable income, making it even more difficult to save for the future or invest in things like education, healthcare, or retirement savings. For young people, entering the workforce has become even more difficult as many face underemployment or are forced into zero-hour contracts which offer no security and low pay. What's even more concerning is that many industries are simply not keeping up with the demands of a modern economy. For example, essential sectors like care, retail, and hospitality have been hit hardest by low wages, despite the hard work and long hours involved. This has created a growing sense of frustration among workers who feel undervalued, underpaid, and overworked. To make matters worse, rising taxes and national insurance contributions have reduced the amount of money people take home, further squeezing household budgets. The stark reality is that for many people in the UK, wages are not keeping pace with the escalating cost of living, leading to an ongoing cycle of financial stress and uncertainty. Number 4. Poor job market security. In the UK, job market security has become a major concern for many people. The days of long-term, stable employment are quickly fading, and many workers are facing increasing uncertainty about their future job prospects. With industries constantly evolving due to automation, outsourcing, and global economic shifts, workers are finding it harder to secure jobs that offer stability and growth opportunities. The rise of temporary contracts and gig economy jobs means that more people are working on short-term, precarious contracts, leaving them without the security of permanent positions. Additionally, the shift towards automation is displacing many traditional jobs, especially in sectors like manufacturing, retail, and customer service. While automation is meant to improve efficiency, it has led to significant job losses, and many workers are left scrambling for new opportunities. In fact, a recent study showed that millions of jobs are at risk of being automated within the next decade, which leaves workers in vulnerable positions, unable to predict whether their careers will remain relevant. For those lucky enough to have a job, job stability is often not guaranteed. Layoffs and downsizing are becoming more common, even in larger organizations, as companies cut costs to stay competitive. This creates a sense of insecurity for workers who fear that their position could be eliminated at any moment. To make matters worse, underemployment is also a growing issue, as many people are forced to accept jobs that don't fully utilize their skills or pay them what they deserve. As a result, the job market is leaving people with limited options, struggling to make ends meet in a constantly shifting environment. Job market insecurity is one of the key reasons why many people feel like the UK is becoming an increasingly difficult place to live and thrive. Number 5. Record-breaking energy bills. In the UK, energy bills have reached record-breaking levels, putting an overwhelming financial strain on households. For many people, the rising cost of gas, electricity, and heating is becoming a major burden, especially as the country faces volatile global energy markets. The energy crisis has been fueled by a combination of geopolitical tensions, supply shortages, and a shift towards renewable energy, which has caused prices to skyrocket. For the average household, this means a much larger chunk of their monthly budget is now going towards paying for energy, leaving less money for other essentials like food or transportation. The price increases are not just affecting large homes. Even smaller households are feeling the pinch. Many people are having to make the difficult decision between heating their homes and putting food on the table. In fact, a recent survey found that over 40% of UK households are now struggling to pay their energy bills, and fuel poverty has become an alarming issue for millions. As temperatures drop, more people are forced to choose between staying warm and keeping up with basic living expenses. Government assistance programs, such as energy price caps, have been implemented to try and ease the financial burden, but they have often not been enough to prevent families from experiencing significant financial stress. Additionally, some households still face payment arrears, further deepening their financial troubles. To cope with rising energy bills, many are taking steps like switching energy providers, investing in energy-efficient appliances, or even turning to alternative heating sources. However, despite these efforts, the sheer scale of the price hikes is making it increasingly difficult for people to live without worrying about skyrocketing energy costs every month. Number 6. Overcrowded public transport. One of the most frustrating realities of living in the UK today is the increasing issue of overcrowded public transport. In major cities like London, Manchester, and Birmingham, commuters are faced with packed trains, buses, and the daily struggle to even find a seat. The growing population and high demand for public transport have stretched services to their limits, leaving passengers standing for long periods or crammed into uncomfortable spaces. This overcrowding not only makes commuting unpleasant, but also time-consuming. As delays and disruptions are becoming more frequent, the problem is compounded by rising ticket prices, making it more expensive than ever to travel by public transport. Train fares, for instance, have increased by 5% to 7% annually, placing an additional financial strain on commuters, especially those who rely on public transport for daily work and errands. Many people now feel that their travel costs are simply not justified by the poor service and overcrowded conditions they face. Additionally, the lack of reliability in the public transport system adds to the stress. Regular cancellations and delays, particularly in the rail network, have become a norm, leaving commuters frustrated and late for work, appointments, or important events. With the price of a ticket continuing to rise, the level of service and comfort seems to be getting worse, leading many to feel that public transport is no longer a viable option for daily travel. In cities where public transport is overcrowded and unreliable, many are turning to alternative forms of transportation, like cycling, carpooling, or even remote working to avoid the daily headache of commuting. The reality is, the current state of public transport in the UK is making it harder for people to go about their daily lives without the stress of overcrowding and delays. Number 7. Crisis in the National Health Service, NHS. The National Health Service, NHS, once considered the backbone of the UK's healthcare system, is now in a state of crisis, with services stretched to their limits. The NHS is facing unprecedented staff shortages, with thousands of nurses, doctors, and other healthcare professionals leaving due to burnout, low pay, and increasing pressure. The impact of these shortages is being felt across the board, from GP appointments to hospital surgeries, as patients face longer waiting times and fewer resources available to meet their needs. The strain on the NHS is only getting worse as the population ages and demand for healthcare increases. At the same time, funding cuts have made it harder for the NHS to keep up with these demands. In fact, recent figures show that the NHS is operating at overcapacity, with hospitals often forced to turn away patients or delay procedures. This has left many people waiting for months or even years for necessary treatments, creating a growing sense of frustration and anxiety. For those in urgent need of care, the situation is even more dire. Ambulance response times have significantly slowed down, and emergency departments are often overcrowded, forcing patients to wait hours or even days for treatment. The mental health crisis has also become a significant concern, with many people struggling to access the support they need in a timely manner. To cope, many are turning to private healthcare as an alternative, but even this option is becoming increasingly expensive. The truth is, the NHS is at a breaking point, and for many, access to timely and quality healthcare is becoming an ever more distant dream. Number 8. Uncertainty. Around Brexit's long-term impact, the aftermath of Brexit continues to create uncertainty across the UK, as the country grapples with its post-EU reality. Despite the official departure from the European Union several years ago, the long-term economic and political effects are still unfolding. One of the most significant issues is the disruption to trade. Leaving the EU means that businesses now face higher tariffs, longer delays, and increased red tape when importing and exporting goods, which has raised costs for businesses and consumers alike. This has led to supply chain issues, shortages of certain goods, and rising prices, making everyday essentials even more expensive. In addition, the loss of free movement between the UK and the EU has created labour shortages in key sectors such as agriculture, healthcare, and hospitality. Many workers from EU countries who once filled crucial roles have either returned home or chosen not to come to the UK due to the complexities of post-Brexit immigration policies. As a result, businesses are struggling to fill vacancies, and services are being affected by the lack of skilled workers. Brexit has also led to a sense of political instability, with divisions between pro- and anti-Brexit factions still deeply entrenched. This has resulted in policy paralysis, with leaders unable to move forward on crucial issues like economic growth, social care, and international relations. The uncertainty surrounding the UK's position in the global market, as well as its future relationship with the EU, continues to add pressure to an already strained economy. For many, the Brexit aftermath has contributed to an environment where stability and confidence are in short supply, making life in the UK feel increasingly uncertain and unstable. Number 9. Declining education quality. The UK education system is facing significant challenges, leading many to worry about the quality of education available to future generations. Over the past decade, schools have been struggling with underfunding, overcrowded classrooms, and teacher shortages. Cuts to education budgets have meant fewer resources for students, including outdated textbooks, insufficient access to technology, and a lack of support staff. This has created an environment where students are not receiving the high-quality education they deserve. One of the biggest concerns is the teacher shortage. The UK is experiencing a crisis in recruitment and retention, with thousands of teachers leaving the profession due to stress, low pay, and increasing workloads. This shortage has led to larger class sizes, which makes it harder for teachers to provide individual attention to students. As a result, many children are not receiving the level of support they need to thrive academically. Studies have shown that smaller class sizes correlate with better academic outcomes, but in many schools, the opposite is happening. Furthermore, the focus on standardized testing and exam pressure has narrowed the curriculum, leaving little room for creativity, critical thinking, or subjects that don't contribute directly to exam results. This has stifled students' ability to develop important life skills and problem-solving abilities. Many young people are graduating without being adequately prepared for the challenges of the modern world, which has long-term consequences for their future employment opportunities and mental health. To cope with these challenges, many parents are turning to private tutoring, alternative education systems, or even homeschooling to ensure their children receive the quality education they deserve. The truth is, the UK's education system is at a crossroads, and unless significant changes are made, the decline in education quality will continue to impact future generations. Number 10. Increasing taxes. As the UK grapples with its financial struggles, taxes are on the rise, further stretching household budgets and adding to the pressure felt by everyday citizens. The government has implemented increased income tax rates, higher national insurance contributions, and increased VAT in an effort to plug the nation's financial gaps. These tax hikes have impacted nearly everyone, from working-class families to small business owners, making it harder for people to make ends meet. One of the most significant changes has been the increase in national insurance, which is a key source of income for the government's public services, including the NHS and welfare programs. While these services are essential, the rising national insurance contributions have put more financial strain on people already dealing with rising living costs. With higher taxes and wages that aren't keeping pace with inflation, it feels like a never-ending cycle of financial pressure. Furthermore, VAT increases have raised the cost of everyday items, from food and clothing to household goods and utilities. This means that families are paying more for less, with many feeling like they're being taxed on almost everything. The additional financial burden has led to feelings of resentment and frustration, especially among lower income households who are disproportionately impacted by these tax increases. While these tax increases are intended to help reduce the UK's budget deficit, they are creating a sense of financial insecurity. Many people feel like they're being forced to shoulder a heavier burden, while not seeing enough improvement in public services or social programs. In the end, rising taxes are simply adding to the long list of challenges people in the UK face, making life feel even more difficult and unpredictable. The situation in the UK is growing more difficult by the day. With skyrocketing housing prices, unaffordable energy bills, stagnant wages, and an overwhelmed NHS, it's clear that the country is facing an undeniable crisis. The struggles are real, and for many, the dream of a comfortable, secure life is slipping further out of reach. Whether it's the high cost of living or job insecurity, these 10 reasons show why living in the UK is becoming impossible for so many. So, what do you think? Is this the beginning of a larger crisis, or is it just temporary? How are you coping with these challenges, and what changes would you like to see? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and join the conversation. We put a lot of effort into bringing you the most important and impactful information, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth videos like this. It's just one click, and it helps us continue creating content that matters to you. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can tackle these pressing issues and spark important discussions.